More than a decade ago, a revolution of sorts occurred in Ontario, specifically in the beer world. Craft breweries of all sizes and specialties sprung up in virtually every part of this province, and success has built many small empires. But as in other industries, the tough times of the pandemic and ensuing economic disruption put livelihoods and new labels in jeopardy. Here for more, let's welcome in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Graham Atkinson, co-founder of Outspoken Brewing, a small craft brewery in the Soo. In Van Cleek Hill, Ontario, just east of Ottawa, Steve Bushane, co-founder of Bose Brewery. Once one of the largest craft brewers in Ontario, it's recently been sold to Steam Whistle Brewing. He's also founder of the League of Independent Brewers. And here in our studio, Mandy Murphy, co-founder of Left Field Brewery, a mid-sized craft brewery in Toronto. And Jordan St. John is back here, head of the beer program at George Brown College and editor of The Growler, Ontario's craft beer guide. And I just learned, first of all, welcome to you two here, and to our friends in Points Beyond, thank you for being on our program as well. I just learned today what a growler is. A growler is that big tub that you put the beer in, right?
That's exactly right. 1.89 liters of beer, Steve.
So that's big.
It's about 4 pints.
There you go. Let us talk to our director, Sheldon Osmond here. Shelley, if you would, could you please bring up this graphic that will set the table for the discussion to come? Here's craft brewing in the province of Ontario. Measured proportionally, we're going to look at the decade from 2010 to 19. The craft brewing industry was the fastest growing segment of Ontario's manufacturing sector. There are currently 342 craft breweries in this province. There were fewer than 40 before the year 2010. They provide more than 4,000 jobs. More than three-quarters are outside the Greater Toronto Area, and COVID saw more than 400 workers laid off. Craft breweries account for about 11% of Ontario's beer volume, but they say they provide 80% of all brewing jobs in the province. They feed $685 million into the province's gross domestic product each year. 90% of Ontarians have a craft brewery in their community. All right, that's a little background. Let's get started here. Jordan, we'll go to you first here. What's morale in the industry like right now?
Well, morale is a little bit difficult, Steve. During the pandemic, there was a lot of turnover within the industry, especially in lower tier roles, sort of front of house, tap rooms, that kind of situation. Because people were laid off, some of them have moved on to other industries. And for some of the people who are in lower positions within breweries across the province, what you end up with is a situation where the remuneration for the job is probably not adequate. Now, in some cases, breweries pay a living wage, but that's not standard. On the Niagara College Facebook group, for example, where breweries post jobs, they sometimes neglect to post the hourly rate for them.
Which is what?
Well, variable highly, but it's about the same you might make as an office intern, $18 an hour with 18 months worth of brewing school experience.
Okay, Steve, let's check out with you. How's business?
Well, I'm not always as in the know as I used to be, but the merger with Steam Whistle has gone very well, and it's put a lot of life back into Bose sales. We were really struggling before the merger, and this has allowed us to kind of get back up and running and actually back into growth mode.
Mandy, how about you? How's business?
Business is good. Demand is stronger than ever at our brewery. We came through some of the challenges of COVID, just like everybody else, not only the brewing industry, but other small businesses. But businesses is positive. We're about to open a second location later this year.
And the morale of your troops?
Fantastic.
Okay, one of these things is not like the other. So what's going on?
I don't disagree with what my peers have said. The craft brewing industry is a challenging place to be right now. Especially coming out of COVID, that, as I said, it's not unique to our industry. All small businesses face challenges like supply chain problems, increasing input costs, pressures on consumer spending. As small brewers, we have the unique disadvantage of really lacking efficiencies of scale to handle some of those challenges. But what is unique to brewing is the closures of bars and restaurants wiped out half of our business overnight. We had to close our tap rooms, and that accounted, especially in smaller breweries, for a large portion of our business. We moved all of our product to cans, and those are taxed more highly than draft products. So there are certainly challenges coming out of COVID, but craft breweries continue to expand and grow. Craft beer overall is growing at a time when beer is declining.
Let's go up to Sault Ste. Marie. Graham, be outspoken. How's things up there?
I mean, to echo what Mandy said and the other folks on this call, we were definitely on a growth trajectory prior to COVID and had the rug pulled out from under us. So lately, I mean, we were one of the lucky ones to have made it through that 2 to 3 year period. And we definitely see opportunity ahead for us, but there's some apprehension about the direction we want to take things and really the way the market's unfolding and our access to distribution.
Let me again get Sheldon to put this graphic up here because we got an email from the former owner of a Toronto craft brewery called the People's Pint. They closed their doors this year. And Sheldon, let's go. I'm going to read this for those listening on podcast. Generally speaking, he writes, it's a tough business, and if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't. Anyone thinking of starting a brewery now should give their head a shake and seriously reconsider that folly. I'm aware of several other breweries who are in financial trouble or are trying to sell. It's not a great way to make money right now. My advice to anyone is to stick to enjoying beer as a beverage and a hobby, but stay away from opening a new brewery. This business killed my passion for it, and that was no easy feat. That's Doug Appledorn, former owner of the brewery The People's Pint, which closed its doors earlier this year. Jordan, this is a business, we're told, where a lot of people take their life savings and put just 110% of their passion into creating something that they're very excited about. And here's Doug saying, don't do it. Your reaction?
Well, there was a period there where the amount of hype surrounding craft brewing was such that you end up in a situation where people think they can have a little adventure. A lot of the people who get into craft brewing, especially from a home brewing background, they end up being people who maybe had a job that they didn't care for in marketing or some other, field. And they really enjoy the idea of making something. And if you do it right, you can put together a small business and you can have a nice life for yourself, but it's never going to make you a fortune. The old adage is that if you want to make $1 million in craft beer, you start with 2. I think that was Ken Woods from Black Oak, whose brewery was recently purchased by Silversmith.
So start with $2 million if you want to if you want to have $1 million left over.
Would be the common wisdom.
Would be the way to go. Graham, you, I think you got into some financial difficulty a little while back and would you have to shut down for a month or so?
Yeah, and that's not unusual for that period of time. We usually take some time in the early part of the calendar year to recalibrate. But there was a period shortly after kind of the effects of COVID where we were on the razor's edge and we had to put a call out to the community for support. But I think that was really telling that, especially in our community, Northern Ontario, Sault Ste. Marie, that there is still an interest and still a need for these types of businesses and establishments within the community. There was a lot of pride that came out of it for us, and the community rallying behind us really gave us the support that we needed to decide to continue.
And you have made that decision, and you will be continuing for as far as the eye can see?
We are not going anywhere as far as we're concerned. And that's the path that we're trying to create for ourselves right now. Is still under development, but we're open, business as usual right now, in production mode, and really looking forward to a busy summer.
Gotcha. Steve, let's continue the story you started to tell earlier. You eventually sold your company to Steam Whistle. Why'd you do that?
Well, there was a number of reasons, but it really started. We were not in a great financial position before the pandemic. We'd had a few struggles before the pandemic, and when the pandemic hit, that was 50% of our business lost overnight, plus $1 million of inventory and kegs that we couldn't use, and so that took a lot of wind out of our sails. Then at the end of 2020, our bank decided that COVID was over, even though the closures continued. So we started getting more and more pressure from our financial partners, and I suffered some personal family tragedy in the middle of 2021, and I had to make a tough decision to be there for the brewery or be there for my family. And I guess I don't regret my decision, but the reality that Bose was facing, regardless of my personal issues, was 5 years of toiling to get out of the mess that we were in. or finding a way to move the business forward. And while my ego would have loved to remain the head of Bose, it just didn't seem like it was the right decision for either the business or for my family.
Did you get a good price for it?
A lot of it's on an earn out, so keep buying Bose, and yeah, I'm still waiting to find out if I'm going to retire in a yacht or a dinghy.
Okay, understood. Mandy, I want you, if you would, to give Sheldon, excuse me. Can we go to wide shot for a second here? You got some of your product on the table here, and I guess just for CRTC purposes, we should say we're not going to crack those open and drink them right now. But anyway, that's some of what you do. Can you give our viewers a sense of all of the different? I mean, yours is a complicated business in many respects, right? You are buying any number of different kinds of ingredients. You've got physical plant, you've got taxation policy you got to worry about. Without going too deep down the rabbit hole, give us a sense of your business.
My business in particular is not unlike other craft breweries. We are a very unique manufacturing operation that is not only a manufacturer, but most of us operate hospitality as well. We have Taprooms where you can come into our brewery and enjoy a pint. You can have a little tour of the brewery and see how the product's made, taste and smell the ingredients. We also operate a retail store, so you can buy beer to go. We operate an online retail store, and we wholesale our beer to the LCBO, the beer store, grocery stores, and small bars and restaurants across the province. And so it is quite complex in that regard.
Well, I got a bit of a list here. You've got cans, you've got barley, malt, hops, grain, transport fuel, cardboard packaging, water. There's taxation. What are the tax rates like?
The tax rates are really, without sounding like a complainer, that they are unjustly burdensome for small brewers. As you talked about, there's been immense growth in craft beer over the last 10 years. In that same 10-year period, craft brewers have received an increase of more than 100% on the rate of tax that we pay for packaged beer. Meanwhile, the large foreign-owned multinationals have received a 30% increase in taxes. So the taxes are challenging in craft beer. Ontario is, or in beer in general, Ontario is one of the most highly taxed jurisdictions in North America on our beer. And we believe in taxes and the betterment of society from the sale of alcohol. That's really important. But if you look and you compare our taxes to other jurisdictions, even in Canada, the rates are quite high, and they've been increasing at a rate that's just not sustainable for small brewers.
Jordan, I will confess here that in preparation for doing this discussion, I went down to the foot of Jarvis Street a couple of weeks ago, and I went to Great Lakes Brewing and talked to Troy Birch just to get some background information on all of this. And, you know, they've got quite an operation there where they're not just selling beer, but it's the same kind of situation I guess you've got, where they've got, I don't know what you call it. Is it a restaurant? You call it a restaurant?
A tap room.
Tap room, okay. Yep. You got a tap room, you come on in, you can even, I don't know if they do that, but you bring your own food at your place too?
Yep.
You can bring your own food if you want as well. Is that the future? I mean, is that the way to make money with this thing, is you've got to not only just sell your wares, but you've got to give customers a place where they can come in and gather and, you know, try all the different stuff?
Well, it's become an incredibly complex business in the sense that if you can't get your product into the LCBO on a massive scale, I mean, Great Lakes does a great job of that. But in order to make it more engaging for the people who are purchasing the beer, it probably makes sense to have a tap room where they can have a nice experience, they can sit comfortably with their friends. Beer is largely about people. So what you want to do is make sure that people are enjoying each other's company. Beer by itself in a vacuum doesn't matter. But if you were to put...
Did you just say that out loud?
Absolutely.
Beer in itself doesn't matter?
And this is an expert talking.
I know, this is why I'm asking.
Ridiculous, right? But, I mean, if we were to sit down and have a nice beer, that'd be fantastic. And, you know, have a nice meal, that's even better. That's what Great Lakes is trying to do. And that's what breweries across the province are facing. They've got the ability to make beer, but engaging with the community around you is really important. Getting people to visit your footprint at the bottom of Jarvis Street there is kind of difficult as the condos continue to grow up, you know, around them.
Well, on the other hand, he's got a market that's going to, he doesn't have to go to the market's coming to him. There's going to be thousands of new people living there in the next 5 years.
That's exactly right. But for the 2 or 3 years they held that lease before they opened, that was a little bit more difficult.
Gotcha. Mandy, let me ask you this. I think there are 4,000 different craft brewing brands out there. 3 of them are on the table right now, but there's 4,000 altogether. Is your market oversaturated?
Definitely not. So Ontario is still very much underdeveloped when it comes to craft beer. relative to other markets in the US and Canada. Our craft beer share in Ontario is about a third of that of BC and only half of that of Alberta. And I think a lot of that comes down to the challenge that we have accessing the craft beer consumer. As you said, there's 4,000 brands. We at Left Field release between 20 and 30 new beers every year. Only a small fraction of those ever make it to LCBO shelves. Fewer make it to the beer store shelves. The system is kind of broken when it comes to servicing craft beer, and the consumer really wants it. The craft beer drinker wants more choice and more convenience, and there's a hard time getting it right now. So I think there's a big opportunity there.
We're going to talk about this system more in a second, but Steve, let me go to you on this. 4,000 brands, is it too many?
No, it's not too many, but what I think happened was too many came in all at the same time. There wasn't a nice kind of straight line growth. It was exponential for an intense 3 to 5 year period, and the marketplace wasn't able to adapt to the amount of new entrants in a reasonable way. So what that's done is it's left a lot of brewers fighting for shelf space. And instead of what used to be the craft beer mantra, which was grow the pie, in other words, gain market share from the large multinationals, what started happening was brewers didn't know each other as well, and they started fighting for their own sliver of pie that they already had. So I think there's still lots of room for more craft beer in Ontario, but the way that we exploded so quickly was problematic, and the market wasn't able to adjust to it fast enough.
Jordan, what's your view on that?
Well, I think the number might be a little bit deflated. I mean, we have 320 on that graphic at the head of the show. It's actually 420 brewing locations. I've been putting together a list over the last couple of months. When you include contract breweries, it's more like 470. So the number of individual brands is probably more like 10,000. 10,000? Well, if you assume that everybody's doing 10 to 15 beers a year, 20 to 30 for Left Field, what are the other 400 doing, you know? So it's, I would say, difficult to generate new brands all the time, especially if you've got hazy IPAs, for example, which are very popular. If people just keep churning them out and they're just switching out hop varieties, I mean, it's very difficult to develop meaning and a relationship with the consumer aside from the brand that you're selling, especially if that thing's not going to exist next week, you know?
Let me get Graham on that, and then we're going to talk about the system of brewing dispensing in this province. Graham, what do you think? Whether it's 4,000 or 10,000, are there too many different labels out there?
I think it can be overwhelming and a bit of a system overload if you're, browsing shelves and not knowing or maybe familiar with the different types of products and breweries that are available to you. But there's certainly room for growth, and we're experiencing that in Northern Ontario. We've kind of honed in on the products that work well in our market, and we're happy to make those and distribute those in larger volume and quantities. But it's important to create space as a brewer to be creative and to kind of still push those boundaries a little bit.
All right, let's talk. And Sheldon, I'm in the middle of page 4 here. We're going to do the background now on the beer store, because most people buy beer at the beer store. What's the beer store? Well, here we go. The beer store is Ontario's biggest beer retailer. It was founded almost 100 years ago, 1927, at the end of the Prohibition era, by a consortium of Ontario breweries that wanted to control distribution. Today, it is privately owned by 3 big brewers: Molson Coors, Labatt Brewing, which is owned by Anheuser-Busch, and Sleeman Breweries, which is owned by Sapporo. All of these brewers are owned by foreign multinationals. They may have Canadian-style labels, but they are owned by foreign multinationals, and it is not owned by the government, like the way the LCBO is owned by the government. These are owned by the beer companies themselves, and they account for about 63% of all beer sales in Ontario. And the deal between the beer store and the government Ontario that limits the amount of beer sold in retail outlets, that agreement is set to expire in 2025. And the current government of Ontario wants beer sold beyond a set number of grocery stores, in big box stores, for example, convenience stores, for example. And the big brewers, let's just say they're not too sure about that. All right, Mandy, start us off here, since you were raising this a moment ago. To what extent does the beer store offer a fair playing field for all brewers in this province, including the craft brewers?
I think the sales data speaks for itself to answer that question. You spoke earlier about craft beer share in Ontario being around 11%. It's inching closer to 12%. When you look at the craft beer sales in the beer store, it hovers around 2% at any given time. So I think that would indicate that the system is not overly favorable to craft brewers.
Why is it only 2% at the beer store?
Well, there are a number of reasons. One that I usually like to point to is the shopping environment. I mean, if you're in a space where you like to explore new things, you're likely going to pick up the package and hold it and turn it around, read the ingredients on the can, understand where the brewery is from, where they're located, what kind of charitable initiatives might be tied to that can. Oftentimes in the beer store, that's not the shopping experience that you're faced with. And then I think there's a listing fee, so you're paying your competitors to list your product on their shelves. I can't think of another segment where that's the truth, where your competitor has a monopoly of retail stores, and the only way you can sell your product is by paying them a listing fee.
Well, is it fair to say they have a monopoly? I mean, they don't have 100% of the
Not 100%
stores.
monopoly. But if you look conversely at the LCBO, they've been great partners to craft brewers over the years. Our share in their stores hovers around 12%, so it's pretty much in line with the market. There's a pace of innovation that the craft brewers that I spoke about earlier, a pace of innovation that is flowing through the LCBO stores. They have a very large mandate, the LCBO, which is to support all beverage alcohol sold in the province, support local wine and cider, et cetera. So there's only so much they can do for craft brewers. They don't have space on their shelves for those 4,000 or 10,000 brands that we talked about. So there certainly is an opportunity in Ontario to open the market up a little bit more, to have a more conducive to craft beer, and to not have the profits flow offshore.
Steve, how difficult is it to get your products, or when you were running your brewery, how difficult was it to get your products into the beer store?
Well, if you've got enough money in your bank account, it's actually quite straightforward. It's a pay-to-play system, so you have to pay for every brand in every store in every size that you'd want to be in. So if you have one brand and you want to be in all the beer stores in a 6-pack, a 12-pack, and a 2-4, you're going to drop about $75,000. I personally find that when you reach a certain size of brewery, getting your beer on the shelf in the LCBO isn't necessarily any better. You end up spending probably the same amount on your sales force because you have to keep going back and defending listings that are being removed seemingly without reason at times. But for small brewers in particular that don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on listing fees, that becomes problematic. And even if you can afford the listing, the beer store reserves the right to basically remove any listing you've already paid for if they deem that it's not selling up to their standards. So you might be spending an extra $50,000 every year just to replace listings that you've lost. So it's an expensive system. It's also really difficult to add innovation or variety because you can't just say, well, I've got this listing now, I want a different beer in that position. You have to lose all of the listings you had for the beer that's discontinued and then repurchase new listings. So it's incredibly expensive and it stifles innovation in a lot of ways.
Graham, what's your experience trying to get your products into the beer store?
So it's not actually a framework or platform that we've fully executed yet, but we have looked into it. And at least regionally, so we're obviously a smaller market, and our distribution is really focused on, like previously we had just been distributing out of our local retail store, only now exploring other options. It's something that we are exploring, but we're not sure we want to pursue it just yet.
Understood. JSJ, just before I get you to respond, we did invite some people who represent the 3 major breweries who run the beer store to be on our program tonight. They declined our invitation, which is their right. But here's what a member of their board, Bob Aziz, had to say in the Toronto Star a while back, and we'll replicate this here for our audience. Sheldon, top of page 6, please. He said the beer store is, quote, not a monopoly because breweries set their prices. He said their mission is to make the broadest possible selection of beers available to consumers across Ontario at the lowest possible cost. That the beer store service fees remain significantly lower than the fees charged to brewers when they sell beer through the LCBO or grocery stores. And finally, he says the beer store is a leading environmental steward It collects almost 2 billion beverage alcohol containers sold by it, the LCBO, and grocery stores annually in Ontario. That's Bob Aziz, quoted in the Toronto Star a couple of years ago already. Okay, JSJ, give me your take on how level the playing field is.
In terms of level, you're not going to find somebody, with a bubble that's going to sit in the middle. It's if you're trying to use a tool for that, it's not going to work. The beer store is a great idea, or at least it was in 1927 when it was a co-op. It's structured as a co-op, and this means that they don't have any capital. What it is a great reducer of complexity. And one of the problems that we're talking about here is the problem of market complexity. You've got all these brands, you want to get them to the consumer. At the time, when it was developed, you didn't have this number of brands. You had, 30 breweries across Ontario in 1930. And then by, 1990, you've got 3 or something like that. It's Molson, Labatt, and Sleeman. And it becomes really difficult once you've got so many different varieties, this trend towards innovation that Mandy's talking about, it becomes really difficult to represent that product across the province. But for Molson and Labatt, who have a smaller number of brands, the beer store is really effective because it allows them to share delivery costs. They're not really operating, and the monopoly question is kind of out the window at this point. They're operating together in order to deliver beer across the province. That's what the beer store is. And they own that distribution.
Okay, Mandy, let me come back at you for sort of finish up this line of questioning here, and that is, there is this so-called master agreement between the Government of Ontario and the beer store, the 3 companies that run the beer store, and that expires in 2 years. If you were able to oversee the transition in a way that where something would emerge that would be more friendly to your industry, what would you like to see happen?
I think many other small brewers would like to see the ability, firstly, for brewers to open more of their own retail stores. And so creating that experience where you come in and you look in the tanks and you talk to someone who's knowledgeable about the beer and you can taste the thing that was just packaged this morning, that's really unique to craft beer.
And you can't do that now?
No, so craft brewers are limited to 2 retail stores in the province. Each retail store is required to have an operating brewery. And of course, the investment in stainless steel tanks and all of the machinery required to build a brewery, packaging equipment, that's really cost prohibitive for us to be building multiple breweries. We're limited to 2.
How many do you have?
I have 1, but hopefully by the end of the year I'll have 2. That's the goal. And
but
so,
if you could have, if you didn't have to have brew making capacity at every location, how many locations do you dream of having?
Multiple. I could see having them in different areas of the city. We'd also like to see the ability to cross-sell each other's beer. So imagine a world where craft brewers could start a cooperative like the beer store. We could sell each other's products. We're really passionate about craft beer. We can promote breweries that have similar values to our own. The opportunities would really be endless in a world where craft brewers were granted the same rights that the foreign multinationals have today.
Got it. Okay, we're down to our last few minutes here, and let's just let's finish up on this. I guess it was about 10, 20 years ago, Jordan, the craft brewing industry was all the rage across the province, right? There were tons of people getting into it, and it looked like there was lots of money being made, and it was certainly the shiny new thing on the shelf. Okay, that was then. What's the level of hype around it today, in your view?
I would say that the level of hype is diminished to some extent. The difficulty being that people are a little bit overwhelmed. You're also facing a demographic challenge in the sense that the boomer generation is aging. They're the people who used to buy 2 fours of beer on the weekends. 1977 is the high point for that, by the way. It's been steadily decreasing since then. So you've got that issue. But you've also got people who's just spent 3 years after turning legal to drink not being able to go to pubs. So there's a socialization element in there as well. It becomes a little bit difficult to get people to buy in. If you can imagine walking into the LCBO for your first time as a 19-year-old and seeing this amount of variety, well, maybe it's a panoply of wonderful choices, and maybe it's just a little overwhelming. There might be a reason why they're just going for the thing that's cranberry flavored in the seltzer aisle. Being able to tell the story is really important, and I think more locations for bottle shops for breweries would help with that.
Okay, Steve, let me try from this angle here. We've heard about the challenges you guys have in terms of how many locations you're allowed to have. Taxation policy is a problem. You feel there's an uneven playing field as it relates to distribution. How much is the industry itself, though, to blame for whatever problems it is having right now, in your view?
Oh, it's hard to blame an industry, right? Because it's not like we did this to ourselves. It happened. I think you put a lot of enthusiasm into any market and it's going to expand. And there was so much enthusiasm for craft beer for so long that it expanded really fast. But again, those of us that have been in the industry long enough remember that this isn't the first time that craft beer had a downturn. Back in '95, everyone was claiming craft beer was dead, and it came back with a vengeance. I feel like it'll come back again. We just have to kind of be okay with the fact that we're not the only thing in beverage alcohol that people are talking about today. But we're still an important part of the industry, and I think craft beer has a bright future ahead of it still.
Graham, if you could make one change to the way things work right now, what would you do?
I really agreed with the ability to cross-sell with other and collaborate with other small producers and small breweries across the province would be a big change and game changer for us, particularly in the north, because of existing distribution challenges we have now.
Okay. Mandy, how about you? One big change that you think would really improve things?
It's really tough for me to make a pick between tax reform, like I talked about some of those tax challenges earlier, and giving craft beer fans access to more craft beer through more craft beer purchase locations. If I had to choose one over the other, I think really for the sustainability of the industry, we really need to see some major changes on the tax side for small brewers, and make sure that our pace of tax growth is not many multiples larger than that of the large brewers.
JSJ, what say you?
Well, for me, I think that one of the things that's going to happen is if you open up more grocery stores after the MFA is renegotiated or possibly scrapped entirely.
This is the Master Frame Agreement?
That's right. They're currently at 450 grocery stores. They topped out 6 years into the agreement. You could expand that easily. And in fact, the LCBO has been expanding into more convenience outlets, about 130 over the last year. Nobody seems to mention that part. We already are having convenience store sales. It's just not the way you want it to be. So more shelf space will definitely help. But if we had more independent retailers who were able to sell craft beer without the decision-making process that goes into a large chain like Loblaws or a Sobeys, something like that, you might end up with better results.
Gotcha. Mr. Director, can I have a four-shot, please, so I can thank our guests? Graham Atkinson in Sault Ste. Marie, Steve Beauchesne in Van Cleek Hill, Ontario, and here in the studio, Mandy Murphy, Left Field Brewery, Jordan St. John, The Growler. You can read his stuff there about Ontario's craft beer industry. We thank the four of you for coming on to TVO tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.